everybody. Good morning. We're going to start in just a few minutes. So if everybody can kind of gather around and get their seats, get themselves situated. First of all, I want to begin by thanking everybody for coming out this morning and spending your Saturday morning encouraging and pursuing both progressive ideas, but also your knowledge and interaction with our candidates. It's not easy to be an activist. It's not easy to be a candidate. It's not easy to be involved in politics. So many people are apathetic these days, so I want to begin by acknowledging your participation. I also want to begin by giving a great thanks to this institution and its fabulous pastor, Ames United Methodist Church. They give glory to God, who has provided the opportunity not only for this church, but for us to be here. And one of the reasons why we wanted to have this particular event in a church is that we're trying to bring all of the communities together. The activist community, the faith community, the white community, the black community, and through the leadership of this institution, we were able to not only open its doors for us and open its hearts to us, but to open and show us in the teachings of Christ Jesus how to be a community organization. So no matter what your faith is, you're welcome here. No matter what your faith or no faith, the absence of faith is a belief in something. No matter what it is, we're welcome here, and we encourage and thank you for coming here today. So that being said, we're going to start with the welcome. I also want to thank Delane Lewis. She's on the program, and Together We Will. Those are our partners in progressive activism here in Harford County, in Cecil County, and throughout. So we really want to thank TWW, the indivisible groups, and the other individuals that help the African American Democratic Clubs of Maryland. We also want to thank the formal Democratic organizations, the DCC, the other organizations. We want to thank the progressive organizations that are not necessarily associated with the Democratic Party. This is a big tent, as I said, for the churches, so that everybody is welcome and all your ideas contribute to the fabric of what we're trying to create in this country, the United States. So without further ado, I'm going to have Mr. Cornelius Scott, president of this organization, come in and give us a welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, James. And I really appreciate all your fortitude and the efforts of the progressive community. First, I want to say, don't you guys look beautiful?
Yes.
You guys look beautiful. Give yourselves a hand. We are working to build a fabric, and it's not always easy. You know, I had an aunt who would knit, and I would watch her knit. And, you know, those hands would be working, steadily working, steadily working, steadily working. And I say, that thing is never going to get done. Well, the work that we're doing as a collective here is knitting. This is knitting. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm very excited, at least, to vision what this patchwork, what this knitting will look like. And when I look out here today, again, I marvel. Because I see something beautiful developing. We have an opportunity in Harford County to lead the county, and we can lead it by leading together. So let's continue to work together. Let's continue to talk to one another. Let's continue to listen to one another. Listening is powerful. Listening is powerful. So thank you so much. In next year is the 10-year anniversary of the African American Democratic Club of Harford County. I never visioned that it would stay around in Harford County. When I set about to do it, I was told, don't do it. I was told I was being divisive. I was told that there weren't enough folks of kindred interests, but now I'm learning that the universe is in control, and it was the universe that spoke because the universe continues to make beautiful things happen like this. Thank you.
And so we would have our first part of the program is to have, and I'm going to take over the actual description of the program. We're going to have our federal candidates for the Maryland District 1 coming up. We have some seats here. And what they're going to do is they're going to just give us basically their platform and introduce themselves to those that haven't met them yet and have an opportunity just to speak to you. So we wanted to make sure that all our federal candidates, so if Allison can come up, I want to see Mr. Coburn, hopefully he's here. I know there's a representative from Mr. Pullen's campaign. If you guys can come on up and just have a seat and we'll get you going.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. The time is always right to do right? So I'm going to introduce the candidates, but I do want to say I have a couple house rules. We are going to be polite while they speak. If you yell, if you think you're heckling, this is not the place to be. We are in the house of the Lord, and we're going to respect it. You know, so I just want to put that out there. I'm sure we ain't going to have any problems, but I always like to put that out there because there's always one. Let's just be real, it's Saturday, there's always one. Well, first I'd like to introduce, I'm going to start with the ladies, because that's what I'm going to do, because I want to. I'm going to say this really quickly about Allison. She is a fighter. She is a fighter. And I met her about a year ago, and I tell you, ever since then, she's been fighting. So I just want to give you an opportunity to speak, because I'm not taking up any real time. Here you go.
I always get worried about the mics. Is it all right? Yeah? How's everybody doing? Okay, so I'm Allison Galbraith. I'm a small business owner here in Harford County. I'm also a single mother. You might wonder what inspires a single mother to up and run for Congress. It's not something you see every day. It's because I asked my congressman for help. And I went to him and I said I own a business. That business gave me the flexibility I needed to care for my dying mother. And the only reason that I can own that business is because I can buy health insurance. Now, this is a common problem for a lot of people, is the ability to buy health insurance. ACA fixed that for me. Before, I couldn't buy it because I couldn't afford it. It was either too expensive because of gender rate hikes, which were 30 to 80% for women prior to ACA, or I was denied altogether because I've had a C-section and postpartum depression. I had a baby. That's what it was that I did wrong. I had a baby, and I couldn't buy health insurance because of it. So I went to Harris, and I started with the staff, and I worked my way up, and they said, oh, maybe you'd be in the high-risk pools. And I said, the high-risk pools were too expensive for a 26-year-old mother. Can't afford it. And then I finally got to meet Andy Harris. And I figured at the time that pre-existing conditions were covered because that was the political environment and people were really fighting back. But nobody really understood the gender rate hikes part of it. And I said, do you promise to vote against any legislation that allows for gender rate hikes? And he looked at me and he said, I don't think most people would mind if women paid a little more for health insurance. Now, to him it might have been nothing, but to me it was everything I had worked for in the last 3 years. If I can't buy a health insurance policy, then I have to go back to work for an employer. If I had to go back to work for an employer, I wouldn't be there for my son. I couldn't have been there for my mother. My mother died 3 days later, and this was a woman who spent her entire career fighting to create opportunities for people who otherwise wouldn't have them, fighting for universal health care, fighting to end racial disparities in health care. That's what she did. And in talking to her friends, in going through her obituary to write it, going through her work, she taught me another lesson that day. You can't erase your painful experiences, but you can make sure they don't become someone else's. I looked at Harris and I thought, this man has no idea what the impacts of his policies are on everyday people. No idea. He's so comfortably insulated from what his policies do that it doesn't matter to him what he votes for. It doesn't matter to him what he does. To me, that's my livelihood. I'm not going to stand for our congressman refusing to do his job and it impacting my ability to keep mine. That's where I draw the line. And then I remembered my mother, and I thought, I can stand up and I can run for Congress, because if this man isn't going to do his job, then I will do it for him. I have 10 years of experience improving federal programs. My job is to navigate some of the most complicated regulatory processes that we have in acquisition. And I'm good at it. I have a proven track record of saving the federal government money. But I think perhaps more importantly than simply being qualified on paper professionally is that I have personal experience. I understand what it's like to be a single mother. I understand what it's like to be a caregiver for a dying parent. I was married to a combat veteran for a decade. I know what it's like when your kids know their father through Skype, if they're lucky. I know what it's like to be sexually assaulted at work and to sue an employer. I know what the fallout of that looks like. I know what it's like to navigate the special education system. You look at Congress, and representatives fight for the things that they understand firsthand, the problems they've experienced. And that's natural. I mean, that's what you get out of any human being, right? They go and they fight for the things that they understand firsthand. Those are easiest to fix because they understand them. Our congressmen are very privileged. Very privileged. We lack diversity in Congress. We lack racial diversity, religious diversity, gender diversity. Most importantly, and probably at the root of a lot of our problems as a society, is the fact that we lack socioeconomic diversity in Congress. I'm a single mom. I'm middle class. When I say I understand people's problems, it's because one little thing, healthcare, could unravel everything I worked for the last 4 years. And I will stand up and say, we deserve representatives who understand, one, that a representative's job is to be available, to be responsive, to advocate on behalf of the people that they represent. That requires showing up. And it requires listening and understanding what we're saying. We don't have that right now. I believe that every family deserves to have the tools and resources that they need to be successful. That they need to be comfortable in life, to contribute to their communities, to not have to worry every day about whether the rug is going to be pulled out from underneath of them. That includes health care, family leave, caregiver assistance, if that's what you need, a strong education system, affordable higher education. Now, legislation isn't black and white. There are a lot of ways you can accomplish any given objective. The important thing is that you have a representative who understands the trade-offs between these things, how to push them through, how to maneuver the bureaucracy, and understand that if your ideal isn't legislatively viable, then you move to the next best thing. But your job, at the end of the day, is to make the lives of the people that you serve better. And that's what I want to do. So I have to run because I have 3 more events today all over this district because I said I was going to show up, and I am here and I'm showing up. If you all want information, there are some flyers in the back. You can talk to Allison Berkowitz or Gordon, and there are any number number of people in here that can get you a sign or some handouts or anything that it is that you want. Go to AllisonForCongress.com if you want more information, or go on Facebook or Twitter and follow me at Allison4MD. That's it. Okay, you guys.
We're gonna do, because she's leaving real quick, do you want to take a couple questions, Allison? Or do you not have time?
What time is it?
Right,
Sure.
can she take a couple questions? Is everybody okay with that? Okay, I just want to make sure, because I don't want to take advantage of anybody's time. Jesse, hi. How you doing?
Okay.
So, I guess I'm the one that got to get up and walk. Okay, I'm going to get my exercise on. Anybody have a question? A question? Just raise your hand.
Or shout it out.
Do you have a proposed plan for health care? I'll just answer the question.
We need to get towards universal health care where every single person has access to health care, regardless of whether it's tied to the employer or not. And that's good for small business too, because I wouldn't have started a small business if I couldn't buy a plan. That'll help business grow. Every one of my clients, even the conservative ones, say that it would be better if the responsibility were not on them and we had a universal government type system.
Ms. Galbraith, I have 2 questions real quick that I want to ask every single candidate that I run into. And the first one is, what do you think about public financing of elections? I think that, in my belief, that's something that really needs to change. And the other question is, do you believe in climate change?
I think the public financing of elections is something we definitely need. We need the big money out of politics. Politics, legislation should never be about who paid the most money or who bought a vote. It should always, always be about the people that our representatives serve. You can't do that with money jumping up the system. And the second question was climate change. Yes.
Okay, one last question.
We have a culture in Congress that has an attitude and functions off of the attitude that representatives are elected to office and then they push their own opinions forward when the job you're seeking is called representative. The guy that's in there now doesn't represent one single idea in my head. He always represents his own opinion. That's a culture in this country, and we need to change it. I'm wondering, what your opinion is of that and how you might push that more towards representative democracy rather than always depending on the representative's opinion.
I've said on many occasions that it might not matter what I want, that it matters more what the people that I would be serving want. That's what matters. Now, I understand some are more vocal than others. I think that the most fundamental question with any bill is, does it leave my constituents better off than they were before? Absolutely, I think that we need to find a way to hear everybody's voice. I think it would be awesome if we had some sort of website, if you could secure it, where if you're registered to vote, you have an ID, you can log in, you can tell your legislator how you feel about any particular issue, if you care to get involved. I think that would be amazing. But look, if you elect me and you send me a letter or call, you're not going to get some garbage form letter back out of me. If I don't understand your question, I'll call you. I'll ask you to explain your position. I'll ask, is there some end goal that we can all work towards together and find the things that we agree on and work towards those rather than looking for things to disagree about.
All right. Thank you, Allison. I just wanted to give her an opportunity to speak since she had to go, because I don't want to flip the format or flip the program. So, yeah. And so I'm going to introduce the next person. Believe it or not, I met Michael Pullen, I want to say 4 months ago. And he actually is a very fantastic person. I had a long conversation with him. And unfortunately today he cannot be here because he's out campaigning and doing what most of us are doing if we're out there campaigning, which is going to talk to the people, you know what I'm saying? Because it's all about the people in the long run. So I got a chance to meet Mr. Justin Mueller, right? Butler, I'm sorry, excuse me. Hey everybody.
So you have to excuse me, I'm Mike Pullen's field director. Mike would have loved to have been here today, but he's down on the Eastern Shore doing voter outreach. Please excuse me, I'm not a politician. I do field work, I direct volunteers, I do canvassing, I do phone banking. Generally, I don't give speeches, so please forgive my use of the podium today. But like I said, my name is Justin Butler, and I'm field director for Mike Pullen's congressional campaign to take back the 1st District and to get Andy Harris out of there. For those of you who may not know Mike yet, Mike was born in West Virginia to a coal-mining family. He was one of 7, so when the time came, Mike worked his way through college and then worked his way through law school because his family couldn't afford it. You know, back in the day, that was actually possible because education was affordable. In 1977, Mike and his wonderful wife Connie, who was a social worker, moved to the Eastern Shore so Mike could take his first job. Over the next 15 years, he worked his way up, starting off as a public defender, defending endangered communities, became a partner in a firm, and then went out and started his own firm. In 1993, his reputation had been built up to such an extent in the local community that Mike was appointed Talbot County Attorney. Now, as Talbot County Attorney, where he served for 25 years before retiring, Mike was able to save Easton's Hospital from shutting down, was able to work with councils, both Republican and Democratic, to provide for smart growth that both helps our environment and our communities. But most importantly, for the state of Maryland, Mike was able to create an enforcement mechanism at the county level to allow county governments to enforce Maryland critical areas projects so that we can make sure that our vulnerable waterways in the state and our Chesapeake Bay watershed as a whole remains protected. The system that Mike put in place to actually enforce these things on county level and to actually get money out of people who violate is now used in counties statewide. Mike is a man with government experience who has got results and who actually knows how to compromise and how government works. 2 years ago, like many of us in this room I suspect, we became very alarmed at what we were seeing on the other side of the aisle during the primary. You had racism, xenophobia, nativism, all rearing their ugly heads. Straight out race baiting is what we saw in the Republican primary. Now Mike, like me, decided that he needed to step up and do more for his community. So first he started off easily enough. He and Connie volunteered for the Bernie campaign. They did the work that I get to nerd out about. They went off phone banking, they went off canvassing, and before long, somebody approached Mike and said, Mike, you should run for the DNC. And he did. And the voters in the 1st District elected Mike Pullen to represent Bernie at the Democratic National Convention in 2016. I met Mike after the dumpster fire that was our last national election. Mike, he decided to form Talbot Rising, which was Talbot County's primary indivisible type progressive group. And we organized. We got about 800 progressives on the Mid-Shore together. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about the demographics of the Eastern Shore, but I was very surprised by what happened there. So we organized, and if not that long after we organized, Andy Harris did come to town for a town hall. And that town hall was at Chesapeake College. And what do you know? That night, we were on the news. We made CNN because our group of progressives stood up and shouted down our congressman. Now, as somebody from the Eastern Shore, I had never seen the left show up like that before. Not in such large numbers, not all in one place, and certainly not with the energy and enthusiasm that I saw that day. When I think about the Eastern Shore and the demographics and the view that other people who don't live there often have of us, you don't really think of the Eastern Shore as a progressive hotbed, really. Most of us think of it as a somewhat backwards place, a little bit behind the times. Maybe the values that are more urban and the progressive ideas that are coming up in the cities haven't quite reached Easton, Maryland yet. or the Eastern Shore generally yet. However, I would like to remind you that the Eastern Shore has been producing progressive activists for centuries. 20 minutes south of where I live, Harriet Tubman escaped slavery and then came back to the Eastern Shore time and time again to free other human beings. Frederick Douglass taught himself to read at a time when it was illegal in the county that I learned to read in. Now, Mike would have loved to have been here today, but he's down in Cambridge, Maryland, celebrating another progressive Eastern Shore icon, Miss Gloria Richardson Dandridge. Now, I'm not quite sure how much exposure Miss Gloria Richardson has on this side of the bridge, but on the Eastern Shore, she is a living legend. Miss Gloria Richardson founded CNAC, the first chapter of CNAC in the country, which was SNCC's adult counterpart. Founded it right down in Cambridge, Maryland. CNAC, together with progressive activists from the community, came together and forced the federal government to step in to desegregate Cambridge, Maryland. When progressive activists come together, this is the stuff we can accomplish, regardless of what Republicans control, regardless of what conservatives happen to be in power. When we unite, we win. Now, I think the legacies of these three great freedom fighters that I just discussed must bring us courage. They must inspire the courage in us to stand up against injustices we see at the national level. These individuals, they were able to stand up against injustices that my 30-year-old mind can't even comprehend. I'm too young to have lived through the civil rights movement. For me, at my age, it is a challenge to understand just how much courage that takes to be able to stand up and do that. That's why these individuals are my heroes, and I think they are true heroes of the first. Now, if we don't have the courage today to stand up to Donald Trump and his crony, Andy Harris, when they are trying to drag us back, what does that say about how we respect our elders, the people that came before us? Whether they are trying to deport our dreamers, build a useless wall, trying to end family reunification, we can all agree that the nativism and race-baiting president in those lines of reasoning is blatant. As the president continues his assault on diversity and inclusivity, we must stand up and say no. No, because we Democrats have certain moral values we do not go back upon. To retreat, is to cede ground. And we don't think we should be ceding ground right now. Donald Trump's tweeting about treason, about not clapping speeches. If you move to the center, you're moving the goalposts of the national debate further to the center and further to the right. That is not what we need to be doing in this country today. Quick take on Mike's policy issues. The basis of our platform, is it good for working families? Use it as a litmus test. If we believe a policy is good for working families, that's the policy we're going to support. Look at the public tax scam.